Now you're at a place where you're putting in $1, you're getting access to more than that. And by the way,
Oh
it's going to
yeah.
be a compounding machine with an increasing death benefit that also is going to be a huge asset for you in the future.
I was given a vision to find just for you.
Tony, welcome to the Better Well Show.
Thank you, Caleb, so much for having me. I appreciate it.
This is take two, and we first met, and you didn't have a microphone, and I
Yep.
think they're like the stars aligned in the bad way because it was like your computer fan was going on. And I was like, man, your story is so powerful that we would do you an injustice if we didn't get a microphone. So thank you for making an investment in that. I want to
Of
tee you up.
course.
We got connected about a year ago.
Yep.
You've been utilizing overfunded life insurance, infinite banking, the and asset, whatever you want to call it, for years. You've utilized it to better your life and to set yourself apart. And so the goal of today's interview is to get a little bit of your story, some of the things that you've learned. And I just want to do a better job talking to people that are ordinary and yet are getting extraordinary results and using life insurance as a tool, as an and asset to be able to
Yeah.
help set that up. So I think you're an amazing example, and I appreciate you taking time on the show.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. Again, I'm excited to be able to just share my knowledge with utilizing the infinite banking system. My journey started about 7 years ago. So I was 23 at the time. And like most people, I was working a job and I was making a decent income. And I was spending more money every month because I had the money to do that. And it wasn't until my aunt sat me down and she asked me one powerful question, and that question was, "Where's your money going?" And I said, "Well, it's going." And some of it's going to my savings account, and the other one is going just to the restaurants and the bars and whatnot. And she had me do this like income based spreadsheet, and we listed out all my expenses to
Mhm.
see like what were my expenses every month, what could I save every month, and I had like I don't know $900 that I could save every single month.
Wow.
And she said, where is this money going? And
Hmm.
I said, well, I'm living a life. I'm going out to the bars and stuff. And she said, I want to, caution you and, give you a little bit of insight into something that she's been doing for a while now. And she said, have you ever heard of like whole life insurance and infinite banking? And I was like, no, I haven't, but I trust you. So tell me what it is. And that moment when she sat me down and kind of just really just told me how I could be in position and in control of my money, that was just like a no-brainer. It was like, well, why else would I not listen to this information? I knew my aunt wasn't going to scam me, number one. And number two, I was like, the only thing that sets me apart from someone who is doing this is the knowledge. I don't have it yet. But I could be in a position if I just sit down and be a student and learn what I need to learn. And we went through this financial education journey. We had to like start from ground zero because they don't teach you this in school. You don't learn this in the school systems. And you know, we looked at my savings goal, and my savings bucket was like $200 a month. Now, mind you, I could save 900, but I was taking 200 of that and putting it in my savings account. Sometimes,
Yeah, yeah. I love how honest you are because a
sometimes,
lot of
yeah, you
people lie
have
to
to be.
themselves.
You
Yeah,
have to be.
yeah.
And she said, well, if you're saving this $200 every single month, then show me in your account, how long you've been doing this for. You should have that equivalent of money in your savings account. So she had me literally sit next to her, pull up my big account, and it didn't reflect what, I told her I was saving. And I said, okay, well, what do I do? And, we had this long-term goal. She's like, where do you want to be by 30? And I said, well, I would love to like have a home by then. That's like one of my top priorities. And like charitable giving. Those two are like really, really important to me. She said, okay, well, 30 is not that far away. And at the time, I was only 23. It did sound like it was far away. Like that's like 7 years down the road. I have time. I'll be 30 in like 5 months. So just give you like an idea of how fast
Time
time has
flies.
gone on.
Yeah.
And she did this whole like lesson with me and just about understanding how money works, number one, before we did a deep dive into strategy and infinite banking, all these concepts that I was not familiar with. We did a what is money 101, if you will, the power of a dollar, the power of compound interest, things that I've never heard of in my life. Like, I don't know what this stuff means. Um, and that was like the best decision I could have ever made, to be a student and learn, because my life has not been the same since I started this journey at 23.
What were some of the principles that were like massive when you were 23 learning this about like the power of compound interest in a dollar? But what was like the epiphany where, because like compound interest is great, but it really doesn't translate to anything unless you materialize it today. So like what were some of the ahas where you're like, wow, like I need to do this today, because if I wait, I'm not going to have X.
Yeah. Well, number one, the power of time,
Yeah.
right? And number two, she actually did like an illustration for me, and like a sample mock-up to show, if you were to do this every single month, this is what your policy would produce. This is what you would have in your cash value. And at the time, it sounded cool. Like, in theory, yeah, like, okay, I can put, $500 a month away for the next 7 years, and this is what's going to happen. Well, why can't I do that in my own bank account? And that was like the one hiccup I was having.
Yeah.
And I said, why am I putting it into this tool when I can just throw it in my bank account?
Yeah.
And she said, well, you're not doing that, number one, right now. And number two, is your money really working for you? And do you want your money to work harder for you? And I said, well, yeah, like, of course, who doesn't? So those are like the two like foundational like principles, like understanding the value of time and understanding how to get your money to work for you over that period of time.
You're so articulate for not being in the space, and so congrats on that. I think one of the things that it became really clear to me is when you give your dollar more utility, more jobs. A lot of times we want to say, yeah, it will work harder, and your money over time will grow at a greater rate of return than a savings account. That will happen, but it's like we are so undervaluing life insurance if we just compare it to the rate of return because of all the other benefits to it. And so when she brought up life insurance, you're 23, you probably didn't have any negative stigma towards it, but what were some of the things that were like eye-opening when you were learning about life insurance? And then did you tell any of your friends, or did you Google like, should I put my money into life insurance? And you probably saw all kinds of news articles, and people were like, no, 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 no. How did you handle those things?
Yeah, I did it all. Even though I had an aunt who was in the space, who had utilized her insurance policy for a long time, it wasn't the fact that I didn't trust what she was providing. It was just that level of security for myself, right? And so, yeah, I did the Google researches. Is life insurance a scam? I immediately thought of life insurance as a death benefit. Like, oh, I need it for when I die. Right. And that was also really important for me, because I didn't want to have the GoFundMe and the barbecue plates and donations. I didn't want that for my family. I wanted to make sure that when my time comes, that my family is well taken care of, and charitable organizations are well taken care of. And so that was like a big component for me too, but I didn't really understand that there was a benefit, a living benefit that you could utilize in this space, until we sat down and did a deeper dive.
Love it. Love it. Let's talk about some of the things that you've done with your policy, because one of the things that we teach, and I'm sure your aunt was the one that shared this with you, is like, hey, your money can work the rest of your life, and you can utilize it to do other things that hopefully invest in yourself, i.e. one of them, buying a microphone. Like that asset, like, let's watch over the next 5 to 10 years what quality will come by you having a microphone. I don't know, but that's a small micro example of the power of investing in yourself. And the cool thing is, you don't have to choose between your money compounding and working for you the rest of your life, and for you to make investments. Yep. Obviously, it's not a free lunch, but talk about some of the examples that you've done over those 7 years, and how you've used your life insurance plan to invest in yourself.
Absolutely. So, initially she asked, what was I comfortable doing every single month? What can I really commit to? Could you have your premium when you go into contract with these insurance companies? You have your premium that you have to pay. And so at one point I was doing, $250 a month, and then adding in an additional $250 to go towards the cash value savings bucket for me. And so I was comfortable doing that $500 every single month. And the first time I really got a feel for how cool this was I was going on a trip, and the trip was like $1,000 like total. And I had the money, but I wanted to kind of just play around with it and see like, how do I use this? And I remember I already began to build some cash value in that first year. So I had money to pull from immediately. And I pulled a loan. It was for $1,000. And then she said, okay, Tony, so the company is charging you an interest rate to pull this money. Remember, you're gonna be in the mindset that you're the bank. And I said, well, how does this work? And she said, well, you're gonna charge yourself interest as well. And so like the company I was with charged like 4.75% or whatever. So I just like round all of my loan out to like 10%. Yeah. Just like whatever I do, it's the minimum, it's the 10%. So that I pay back the loan to the company, and then I pay myself back the extra difference.
When you say you pay yourself back, like you actually pay it in a savings account, or were you able to make extra payments on the life insurance policy?
Make extra payments into the life insurance policies. And so, set up my amortization schedule and then make those payments back into the policy. When I did that, and, with another like $100, something like that I got to put back into pay myself back to, I go, well, wait a second. Like, well, let me do the math. If I was to pull that same $1,000 from like Chase or Bank of America, they were charging, or put on my credit card, for example, they're charging 18, 20%, for the same, loan. And I said, oh, wow, like this is pretty cool. And that was like the small, let me just play around with it. But then a few years later, I had a pretty big like consolidation loan of credit card debt that I accumulated during my time in college. And I was with, a bank or whatever. And it was several $1,000s, like 10 to be like completely honest with you. And I just recently, I built up enough cash value over the years to be able to then take control over that loan. And it was such a relieving feeling to be able to go to my bank and pull that money out and pay off, Patelco and say, here's your money.
How much was the interest rate at the college?
Oh God. I think it was like 15%.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it was high. Okay.
It was pretty high. Yeah.
And so your loan rate was 4.25.
Yep.
4.75. So yeah. So I mean, we could do the math there, but that's hundreds of percent rate of return on paying off a liability. So congratulations on controlling.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And then now I'm getting to be in position now to use my life insurance policy for a down payment for my house in about 2 years. What we're working towards right now.
Congrats, man. I think I have a lot of people on here that are like big time entrepreneurs, big time investors. I just interviewed someone this morning, actually, David McKnight, who wrote The Power of Zero and like doing documentaries and all this stuff. And so sometimes you can listen to people like that and go, okay, like I get that academia and people are smart doing it, but does this work for someone like me? The reason I love having someone like you on is you're very relatable and you're saying, listen, I did this. I still put money every month into this thing. And this is kind of how I began. And guess what? You have so much more money than if you would have stuck with your savings account, because you would have, and it's because of human behavior. It's not just apples to apples, but because your aunt set one of these things up, it allows you to, you can have access to that capital, but you got to pay yourself back. And when I say pay yourself back, the insurance company back, and it just makes you be more honest because you're taking a loan versus taking your own money, which by the way is an indirect loan. So it's like an indirect loan for the ignorant kind of deal. When you pay cash, it could be massive expensive if you don't actually pay yourself back. And so, man, this is I love this, and you can tell this is something I love talking about and I
love talking about it. I mean, it's literally been a life-changing just experience for me. Just I feel like I've become better, more serious about my finances now. Like the old Tony would have blew the $500 a month he was supposed to be spending, putting into this policy. If I didn't have structure, then, and I set it up, initially where it was like a monthly draft, like every single month would just come out like clockwork to eventually now going on annual now and really being a student of that. And it's been about 2 years since I've been on annual, but having the financial discipline to go, okay, Tony, they're not drafting every month, but you need to go put this into a separate account
Yep.
So that way, when your anniversary comes up, you have that money ready to go. And I know I've grown so much in my financial understanding so far. And I know I have a lot more to do, but I'm happy with the progress that I've made such far.
Early on, were you kind of like dreading when you had to every time your money left your account?
Absolutely, because I didn't see it.
Yeah, you saw it as an expense.
I saw it as an expense. That was the biggest thing too. I saw it as an expense.
Yep.
And but I didn't see, I saw it as an expense, and it took a long time for me to get over that, because I'm like, well, they're taking the money from me.
Yep.
And then I looked in, because I couldn't see it. It wasn't like I could just log in. Oh, I could log into the account, but you don't have direct access to it to be able to
Yep.
pull right away. You have to wait 2 or 3 days to get it direct deposited.
And I don't expect you to know this, but do you know how much your policy will increase when you make your next annual payment?
I don't, not on top of
Okay.
my
It's
head.
fun because let's say, just to say, like, let's say your contribution's like 6 grand a year. I bet you'll put 6 grand in and you'll have access to far greater than 6 grand. I don't want to quote because I'm not 100% sure how the policy was designed, but it's cool when now you're at a place where you're putting in $1, you're getting access to more than that. And by the way,
Oh
it's going
yeah.
to be a compounding machine with an increasing death benefit that also is going to be a huge asset for you in the future while you're alive. So Tony, thank you for sharing this.
Of course, of course. Like, and then thank you just for your knowledge. And I found you on Instagram, and it's been the best decision ever. You just, sharing the knowledge of why this works and why this is an important tool to have.
Yeah, I think if you're an Instagram user and you're not following Caleb Williams, make sure to follow. Thanks to Tony, I'm starting to up my game, as you probably can tell. I'm starting to
Yes.
do some repurposing. For the longest time, I think you were following me when I did nothing. So thank you for that false belief. But man, I think your story is important, and I think if people have questions and maybe are on the fence, it's just good to hear from people that are like, hey, this is my journey, and it's been utilized as an amazing and asset. I want you to share a little bit of you're an author, you're doing some really cool things. I want to see if we can support you as far as the Better Wealth community into what you're doing and the goals that you have in your life.
Oh, sure. Well, I am the best-selling author of Is Your Dream Really Worth It? Discover your passion, your purpose, and your plan. And I'm also a book writing coach. I help aspiring authors in the children and self-help space navigate the self-publishing space. I've really been that mentor and that guiding figure throughout idea to actual book in hand. And it's been a great ride so far over the last 4.5 years that I've been doing this work and helping authors launch their books into the world. And so there's someone out there looking to write a book, and you have it in you, but just don't know the steps, so you need someone to hold hand you through the process. I'm happy to be that guide and be that support system for you.
I love it, man. I love it. And how can people find out more about you, follow you on
Yeah.
social media and whatnot?
Yeah, so you can follow on Instagram or TikTok at Tony Tony Shavers SHAVERS _3. And my website is tshavers.com.
And the website is very well done. And I'm a
Thank you
big
so
fan.
much.
I'm a big fan of writing. The book, the And Asset, helped me get on more stages and have a platform, and so I'm grateful for that. Tony, is there any final words that you have as it relates to money, as it relates to life insurance, as it relates to epiphanies? Because I want to transfer into our next question, but I want to make sure I give you the time of day to speak kind of what's on your heart as it relates to money and life insurance.
Yeah, I would really just say be open. That's it. It wasn't that I had to make a decision right then and there when my aunt sat me down.
Yeah.
But I was open enough to just listen to the information. And then from there, be able to make a decision that works best for me. So if you're not open, then you just rule yourself out of every possibility. So give yourself the opportunity just to be open for what you don't know, because you never know how that can tremendously bless your life moving forward.
Thank you, man. The way that I like to end these podcasts is what I call the legacy question. And I know it's probably crazy being 29 thinking about this, but it's imagine that this is your last day on Earth. And I had a guest the other day that said, I asked him this question and he was like, oh, well, the world's all ending. I'm like, no, your world's ending, not everyone. Your world's ending. So your world's ending. You have a few hours with the people that you love the most. What are you going to make sure to highlight in that last conversation?
Wow. um, I would say give yourself a little grace. Give yourself grace and don't spend all my money at one time.
Because they're gonna get a lot of
they're
it.
gonna get they're gonna get a lot. They're gonna be well taken care of, and don't spend it all in one place.
I one of my good friends in the space says I have an agreement with my wife is when I pass away that she's got to look sad at the funeral. She can't be super excited about all the money she's getting on because of the death benefit. And I thought that was funny, but it's there's a lot of truth to living your legacy, and you financially have set yourself up in a place where regardless of what happens, hopefully your ripple can move on regardless of what happens. Tony, thank you, and
Thank you, Caleb.
we'll include all your information down below. And make sure to go support Tony out. And yeah, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Hey, I want to thank you so much for watching this video to the end. This video is on life insurance, and if you have more questions about life insurance, infinite banking, why you should overfund it, we have a link below that goes to our And Asset Vault. This is a free vault that gives you everything you need to know about life insurance. We have case studies, we have a calculator on there, we have a handbook, we have frequently asked questions, we go through a process. I have my masterclass on there. We literally want to be the one-stop shop for every life insurance decision. And so if you want to learn more, click the link below, and we look forward to educating and maybe opening your mind and eyes to the power of life insurance.